my life just flashed before my eyes when they read the bio. I am so thrilled to be here. And one of the reasons why I'm thrilled to be here is that after 1,500 hours working in the cemetery, we're able now to have enough information to provide the public with what we've done. And we're really excited about that. I said 1,500 hours. I want that to register, right? I have, I thought a lot about this program, and I thought, well, I could tell you about spreadsheets and grid maps and boring stuff, but I think that the main thing I want to do is to express the personal experience I had doing this program. It was intellectually challenging, it was physically challenging, and emotionally challenging. So I hope that you agree when we finish the program. I have a little bit of cleanup to do at the beginning. We gave you a handout. And because we really don't have time to talk about history, we wanted you to read this and understand, because the cemetery is right there on top of the hill. And if you don't know anything about it, this will help you. It was an excerpt from a pamphlet that East Hill Cemetery had published in 2010. Also, I want you to note toward the end that East Hill Cemetery is listed on a National Register of Historic Places. So that validates that it's an historical location. And East Hill's new website is now available, and that's also on the page there. And then on the back of the page is a section map. And with the section map, this is printed in one of the books. We're going to discuss that just briefly later. And I added the numbers on the side of this section map, and it indicates the section and the number of structures that are in that. And we'll look at that in a minute. Notice the diagonal line, that's the state line. So the cemetery is actually between the two states. It's diagonally, and it's about 50-50. So in the north, it's Virginia, and in the south, it's Tennessee. Okay, and I want to also make note that the board of directors, some of the members of the board of directors from East Hill Cemetery is here. I'll introduce you later, but just raise your hand now if you're on the board of directors at East Hill. Everybody? Some of them? Okay. Thank you for being here. And then also the Sons of the Confederate Veterans, if you'll raise your hand, it may be the same people. Some of them, there you go. Glad to have you here. John Pappy Hawthorne. Pappy, raise your hand. He's also going to, raise your hand, Pappy. He's also presenting for a few minutes toward the end of the program. Good Lord willing, and we don't run out of time. About what the organization, the SCV organization does for the cemetery, and that they are their caretakers, so we're interested in that. Okay, a couple of housekeeping things. If you don't mind, we're going to be running out of time here, so if you don't mind, the questions toward the end, we'll have them right after we present. That way we can answer them, have time to do it there. Also a disclaimer for me. The disclaimer is that anything that I say tonight is my own personal experience, and it doesn't reflect whatsoever on any decisions that the board of directors has done, or how well SCV takes care of the cemetery. My observations, okay? All right. And at the end, just one last thing. Anyone who's had any involvement in this project, we're going to have a picture at the end. I want to take a photo, so stay over just a few minutes. Come up, that's the board, that's SCV, and anyone else that's helped. We appreciate it. Going to take some photos. Okay. Now, in terms of what we did, obviously what we're going to talk about is digitizing East Hill Cemetery's records. But in doing that, I have discovered a community of really caring people who put their time and effort into helping us, and we're going to be able to share so much more from that. Okay, so I want you to remember something about community. Community, for the purpose of this presentation, is a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. So we're going to define community that way. All right, so let's go. Let's see if this works. All right. The first one, of course, is the beginning. I want to also, here's an advertisement for BHA. This is our mission statement. And as you can see, it says the purpose of developing an interest in the culture of and the appreciation for the lives of the citizens of Bristol through the identification, preservation, interpretation, and presentation of local history. And that's why we're doing this. And that's why we did the project, the cemetery project. All right. So the next slide is the main gate of the cemetery, and it faces East State Street. And across the street from the cemetery is the Slater Center in Bristol, Tennessee. So a couple questions. How many of you have family buried at East Hill? Okay, handful, yeah. How many's actually been to East Hill? Has ever been? Okay, so you know where it is and what it looks like. Good deal. This is the board of directors. Jerry Eggers is the chairman. Phil Blevins, if you're here, raise your hand, please. He's the vice chair, also with SCV. Don Solons is secretary treasurer. James Ambergy is a board member and also SCV. Dee Baines, who is critical, let me just say it here before I forget. Pappy is the reason why I started this project. Dee Baines is the reason I could finish the project. And he gets all the glory, so I'll mention him again later. Let's see, where am I? James Boer, board member in SCV. Pappy, I already know, board member in SCV. Arnold Lane, board member. James Little, he's here, board member in SCV. David Peters, also member in SCV, and Bob White. Is Bob here? He's the board member also. Okay. Here's the border of East Hill. This is running to the south, and it's going west. It's East State Street. You go up Buford, and then 2nd Taylor, and then Haddon Street, and then you pick up William Street all the way down north going to south. That's about 16.7 acres. And of that, 14 acres is actually mowed during the summer. Okay, now let's, sorry. Let's walk through the gate. And when you walk through the gate, at the next intersection on the northwest corner is BHA's marker, or historic marker. This was one of the first ones that was actually awarded back in 1989, and then it changed its face or whatever. But anyway, our marker is right there. And so this is the reason why, honestly, the project started. As I mentioned, I'm the chair of the Historic Markers Committee. I was going through all the earlier records to see what was on East Hill Cemetery, and didn't have much of anything in the files. So I found out that Pappy was given a tour of high school students through the cemetery, and I said, well, I'll just tag along and do that. So I did, and this is part of the group, and they're actually paying attention. They're high school students, and it's actually paying attention. This is Barbara over here. She went with me, Barbara Smith. So, and Pappy's standing there talking to them about one of many things. So after the tour, I kind of pulled Pappy over, and I said, you know, I had an ulterior motive. I wanted the history of the cemetery and any records that they had to put in my files when I got back. So we walked, this is not where we were, but this is kind of like where we were. As you can see, it's a beautiful, shady, level piece of ground. You can read the headstones. Everything is in order. The rows are in order. Everything is perfect right there. So this is where I'm talking to Pappy. I'm looking around. And I said, Pappy, you know, do you have any history records at all? Do you have anything that I can look at? He said, we don't have any history records. And I said, you don't have a list of the people that's in the cemetery? And he said, well, we have an out-of-date book, an out-of-print book East Hill Cemetery, 1857, 2004. You might have a copy of it, some of you. That was written by Gary and Deborah Rose. And what they had was, the book has, they did a survey back then. And the way they did it was they put the names in alphabetically. Now remember, this is 2004. So they printed it, alphabetical order, had the name, the dates, birth dates, and death dates, the section they're in, and then someone did wonderful comments about several of them. Not everybody has comments, but you can see the ones that have comments. So when you go to the section map, this is what was on the back of the book, is the section map. And you look at, for instance, you have somebody that you've looked up, and their section is 2B, or 2A, excuse me. If you can look on your map, section 2A is at the very top, and then look over to the side, 2A has 1,046 structures in it. So, and it's a huge section. So if you were gonna go look for your loved one, chances are we might not even find you. You surely wouldn't find them, but you might not even find you. You'd be roaming around for months. So that wasn't really helping the board of directors, the people that and SCB that working in the cemetery, not really at all. The directors, the people that and SCB that working in the cemetery, not really at all. And so I sat a minute and I thought, I'm known as the spreadsheet queen, okay? People that know me as someone that really loves to put stuff on the spreadsheets. And I thought, well, it doesn't look very hard. I think I can do this for him. This is what's going through my head. And so I said, Pappy, I think I can help you. And he was really excited. He said, that would be great. And he turned me over to Dee Baines, who's not here. He's sick. He's under the weather. But Dee, it was my point person. He also knows how to do spreadsheets. So that was the connection that we had. So that's what I did. And I talked to the board and got permission basically to do it, and made a plan. So the first thing I wanted to do was to get, I'm supposed to do that, sorry. So this is John Luttrell and his employee, Brennan Died. Does anybody know John Luttrell with the city of Bristol, Tennessee? Great guy. So I called John because he knows everything, right? He's the director of community relations, and Brennan is actually a drone driver, a licensed drone driver that works for him. So I said, John, I really need some aerial photos. Do you know anyone who could do that for me? Thinking that I'm going to have to pay personally for a lot of money to get aerial photos. And he said, oh, no, I've got it. I've got somebody that works there, and it's free. So that was great. And this is the kind of photos that you see from what he gave me. You can zoom in a little bit more, not too much more, but what you see are the top of the headstones. It's pretty easy to read, right? So this gives me kind of I can get my arms around what these different sections look like. So the main gate is there on the end there, the road, you can see that coming in. And this section below is the beginning of section 7. We'll talk about that. This is another picture that's nice. It's the Field of Honor at the top of the cemetery. You can see how beautiful the rows are, all rowed up, beautiful, easy to see. Evan Shelby's grave, General Evan Shelby, is in the middle there, or it has a fence around it. So what I did was I took those photographs when we were in sections that really didn't have a clear view of where the rows were. We had to kind of combine things to make a row, and actually drew them off. That's why we needed that. So that helped out really well. Okay, and then, that worked. So I had a spreadsheet. All right, I'd like to tell you how many hours I worked. After 250 hours of converting this information I scanned the book, 381 pages, and then in PDF, if anybody wants to know, and then I actually converted that to an Excel spreadsheet. And then what took so long was anything that you convert from one format to the other, doesn't read very well, right? So you get all these squiggly things and words that don't exist in there. And it took me a lot of manual labor to clean it up. So that's why that took so long. Other things about this spreadsheet, I know it's tiny, it's the gist of what a spreadsheet looks like. But we knew that we had to create, in order to nail where every headstone was, to locate it, we had to assign a unique number to every one of them, which is going to require us to touch every headstone that's out there. And structures, 4,400 structures, okay? And so the section and location number combines to a unique code, and that's how you would identify that. Easy stuff, the name, first name, last name, birthday, death date, information from the comments. The beauty of the spreadsheet is that it's permanent, hopefully it's accurate, and you can store it forever. It's a spreadsheet that you can store on a flash drive or somewhere else. And so, and you can also sort by a word, any word that if you're looking for all the captains that are buried there, you can sort on captain and you can get a list of that. Mothers, father, anything you want to sort. Sally's, anybody named Sally. It's just a really neat tool to be able to do your business, if you want lists and things like that. So that's what makes it exciting to be able to do that. So at least I accomplished that. I put everything, digitized the spreadsheet, and that was the first goal. So I had, so here I am. I got my spreadsheet in my hand on my clipboard, got my visor on, got some glasses on, tennis shoes, and a big old bottle of water. And I start out in section 7, the one I pointed to you before. And so this is a note to me, so I'll remember to tell you. I got to section 7. It was 90 degrees in section 7. No shade. And I was by myself. So I start walking down the rows, and I realize there's not rows here. There's just a bunch of markers everywhere, right? And some of them I couldn't read. They're old. And if you just can, if you've been in the cemeteries before doing research, they're really hard to read. So, and then when I happened to step on a flat stone, that some of those headstones, they have everything on, step on it and realize, oh my gosh, there's one in there. Half of it's buried in dirt, and they're overgrown in this really nasty grass, this really heavy crabgrassy stuff that I tried to pull up with my hands and couldn't do it. So I'm about to panic. And I'm thinking, oh, Pappy's going to be so disappointed, right? I promised I'd do this, and I don't promise things unless I can finish it. And I honestly thought, I'm not going to be able to do this. And I kept looking up the hill. East Hill Cemetery is a hill, and everything slopes down from that hill. It's like you know what I'm talking about? And primarily, the oldest ones are at the top because that's where it started in 1857. And then in the 1880s, a new section was added below. And then finally, the newest one. So, it's just drapes down there. And if you're going to go to the cemetery, you're going to be walking up some slope, this way or that way. So that's kind of what I did. I panicked. And so I called James Little and Dee Baines, who are my contact people. And I said, guys, I need some help. Would you meet with me? And of course they did. And both of them said, we will be here for you. We'll need 2 people to do it. Somebody's in the front. They're trying to locate any buried stones, and they walk the path for you. And then I'm in the back checking them off the spreadsheet. And remember, the spreadsheet data came from the book. So if it wasn't on my spreadsheet, I had to add that person in the spreadsheet. So I felt a lot better. Thank goodness they were here. They saved the day, and so that's what we did. And so I want to stop a minute and tell you a story. I love the stories. This is the personal part. I'm going to meet them the next day. So I pull in. I drive a Tahoe, and I pull into the main gate, remember? And I'm thinking, it's going to be really hot. I need to park this vehicle under a shade tree. So I said, I could park here, not much shade. I can go around to the corner, another tree, not much shade. And then I saw that down section 7, in the middle was a huge oak tree. And I thought, hey, that's a nice shade. And it's close to where I'm going to be working. So I went down and pulled the Tahoe to the left. I'm going down the street. I pull it to the left. Tahoe kind of leans over a little bit because there's a big slope there. And I open the door and almost fall out of the vehicle because the door is heavy, right? And I turn around because I'm going to the end of my vehicle. I turn around, and right in front of me, blocking my view, is this. What does it say? What does it say? It says Linda Kirk. Sorry about that. It's hard to read. Linda Kirk. So I'm staring at it and going, well, it's either a warning or it's a welcome. This is a little girl. She's about 8 years old. I don't know. She wasn't on the database. We think she might have had the monument put there, or the headstone put there after the book was out. And so I said, I'm not going anywhere, so I'm going to take it as a welcome. And so now every time I go in, I kind of wave at her and speak to her going in. So anyway, that was the time when we started in section 7, and I wanted to just read this real quick. So let me describe what we were dealing with. This is on number 2, it's physical data collection. Already told you 16.7 acres, 14 acres mowed, slopes everywhere. Each, it's kind of a mess, really, the way, the land is. And the reason for that is the physical condition. Anything that's on a hill that was built beginning 1857 is going to erode, right? The soil is just going to roll down the hill for a lot of reasons. And 16 acres to manage is a lot of land. And I can't imagine how much it would cost to fill all that in. Sinking graves. If the grave is older, where they don't have a vault, you know that graves sink, right? And over time, especially the old ones, over time that's going to happen. Because of the erosion, a lot of damaged headstones because they also fall over, right? So the sloping ground, they fall over. And also vandalism. We still have that in the cemeteries, a lot of vandalism. But the main thing about it is groundhogs. Have you noticed the wall that's falling over on the side if you've gone by? Groundhogs and a lot of water erosion. So they're everywhere. I don't even know how you get rid of groundhogs, but they get in there and they tear everything up. Yellow jackets. Okay, do you know that yellow jackets have holes in the ground? That's their nest. Okay, so Dee would put me in front when we were walking into a new section, because apparently the suntan lotion on my arms attracted yellow jackets. So I would walk through and all of a sudden I'd be swarmed by all of these yellow jackets. And Dee says, don't panic. Well, yeah, you'd walk first then. But anyway, what that did, of course, was really alert us. We put flags there so we won't get stung. I never did. I walked through it, so kind of passed through it and then got far enough they left me alone. Okay, another one is animal poo. So if you're walking and you're not paying attention, you could step in dog, deer, or rabbit poo, and if you don't know the difference, don't step, right? And also dog confrontations. We had a couple of those when we were out there. Okay, here's a picture of Dee digging up a headstone so we could read it. You see, I don't know if you can see that. The headstone is probably about 17 to 24 inches. There's about 4 inches showing from the top of the ground. And the one right beside him is the same thing, right? So he's literally digging a hole to try to get this information that we want, which is fine. You have to do it, right? This is also how you chalk. So we couldn't read this headstone, put the chalk on it, and then it kind of steps out. So that's what Dee did while we were going. He did all of that. Okay, now this is a position that we were in. Dee's in the front. He's got what we call a poker. It's just a piece of wood, like a broom handle, and on the bottom is a spike. And what he would do is walk in front of us to try to find those buried headstones, and he'd hit them. You could hear it, or he could feel it. So that's how he's doing. some parts of the cemetery were so dangerous that if I didn't step inside his last steps, one of us is going to fall in a hole and break our ankle or break our leg. So I literally followed him doing that. The next thing that I knew, he said, "Stop." And there was a 16-inch hole where the whole grave had sunken. And, you know, as you can see, if we weren't paying attention, we would both be with broken legs. I mean, it's that serious. So everything was like a challenge, for sure. This is the slope I was talking about in one of the sections, just so you can see. We'd have to go up the row. You have to go down the row and then go back up the row and come down again to be able to number them in the order that they fell on the rows. So that was something that took a lot of time. All right. This is a fawn, see it? It's a twin. There's two of them. And they live at the cemetery. They're probably not fawns anymore, actually. They live at the cemetery, and they didn't care we were there or not. They ate, they were tame, they were beautiful. We had a big kick out of that. And then we have a yappy dog. So the yappy dog is, you know, little dogs you gotta watch because they can bite your ankles. You don't know what they're gonna do, the little ones. And so he'd come out every time we passed. I guess he thought that was his front yard, the cemetery, and try to attack every time we went up and down. Do you feel sorry for us at all? This is what this is all, okay. Really, seriously. Okay, really, seriously. Okay, this is my last story. Dee and I had stopped working, and it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I had to go up to the top of the hill, that's the oldest section, and get some information from a couple of headstones. And so Dee left, he was ready to go home, he left, and I walked up the hill. By the time I got up the hill, I was exhausted. It was a really hot day. I was soaking wet with sweat. It was really hot. I went up to the cemetery that where Evan Shelby was buried, General Shelby, and right in front of his grave was a bench, a solid rock bench. So I sat there, and I was just exhausted. And but the breeze is always good up there. Lots of good breeze. And beautiful shade, and I closed my eyes a minute. It was so quiet. And when I closed my eyes, I had this feeling suddenly that I was being watched. Have you ever had that feeling? You know somebody's watching you? And I turned to the left, and between here and probably that wall, the two twin fawns were standing there. Two twin fawns, they were staring at me, I was staring at them, and I thought, they're so close to me. And then I thought, oh my gosh, nobody's gonna believe me, I've gotta get a photo. So when I finally got the phone out of my pocket and went to my face, they had already scampered off, and they go to the end and eat leaves at the bottom of on the west side, the tender leaves. Okay, so, all right, this is the grid map. This is the second piece to the spreadsheet. The grid map is actually the location of the headstone. So from the unique code that we assigned, we made a row. There was a first person on the row, last person on the row, and the numbers underneath are the unique numbers for that particular headstone. And the colors mean if it's a single headstone or a double headstone or a multiple headstone, or if it's a monument or a marker. So it actually tells East Hill Cemetery folks where to find these graves. And if anybody was wanting to see a grave, come to them, they would show them where it was. But it was only intended for EHC to use that. Okay. So in total, at number 3, there's 4,400 monument structures, all of that in the cemetery. The stones that we found by digging up that weren't listed in the book was 262. The stones found that were listed in Rose's book in 2004 that we couldn't find were 100. So we found them, but they weren't in the book at the time. And that means that in 20 years, headstones, flat stones, were completely buried, and you wouldn't be able to see them. That's how quickly that can happen. So I told you before, total hours worked is 1,500 and still counting. Okay, so I called my friend John back again, John Luttrell, and said, hey, I want to get the state line on the map so that we can determine who's in Virginia and who's buried in Virginia or in Tennessee. And so he called David Carney, and David Carney is a Geographic Information System, GIS coordinator, City of Bristol, Tennessee, in the engineering department. Think Google Maps. That's a GIS map. You see them, they blow up, you can see what they look like. And Jonathan Smith works for him as a GIS analyst there. And gosh, I can't. So these are my fellows. David is on the left, Jonathan is on the right. And so they did that for us. And then they came back and said, David called me and said, you know what, this is a big reveal, by the way. This is one of the big points that we're making tonight. If you when you get through with all the data and everything, if you give it to me, I'll create an interactive map and grave locator on their website. So what that means is all of the data that we collected, they were able to create and put on the website, so anybody in the world that has access to an internet can look up people at East Hill, and we'll see the East Hill Cemetery. I'm going to give you a quick example of that. Okay, this is just a mock-up model. This is section 7. Remember, we were working in there. And you can, on the left is a zoom. You can go in and out, make it bigger and larger. Smaller. And then, so if we're going to look for someone, spread it out a little bit, you type your name in the top right. First name, last name, right? We're going to pick Thomas Redfield. That's the name we're going to pick. And when we do that, you see he's on the list because you pulled it out of the database. And then when that happens, it locates it, and then on the dot, it blinks so you can see where he is, a physical location of where he is. And when you hit the button, it pulls up all the data that we put in the spreadsheet. So not only do you have the location, but you have all of this other information that we have in the spreadsheet that would be built into this. And, as far as I'm concerned, that was a gift, and it was all free of charge. All of this was done free of charge for the cemetery. So they're working on that now. We were finished with loading the data in and everything, and we think that might be available in a couple of months or so. We're gonna see, all right? And so the next events, really quickly, we've done LIDAR, which is light detecting and ranging, and thermal imaging scans. We had, again, ETSU came over. Dr. Eileen Ernenwine and Jonathan knew her. She's over the Department of Geosciences, which is actually archaeology. That's kind of her field. And they brought drones, and the reason why we wanted them to do that was to see if there were any mass graves, or also graves that we couldn't find. So the next baby reveal is that we've already done all of that. We don't have the results yet because she's very, very busy. But we think that we might be able to discover where mass graves were that we didn't know before. And then, of course, the second one is a website, fully integrated map. That's what we're working on now that I just told you about. And then I'm going to complete the history of East Hill. They don't even have that in a file, so I'm going to do some work to do that. I'll show you what this looks like. This is Dr. Eileen is in the front, Jonathan, and then myself is there that cold day that we did that. I called him Samson. He's the big drone. He's like the size of a small lawnmower. That's how big he is. So he doesn't like, he goes, and it goes up, and he scans the whole area. It's really amazing. I don't know how they do it. By the way, this is state-of-the-art stuff. It really is. So we had access to, the mapping is state-of-the-art. People are doing that now, but they're not putting all this information in it behind it. So this is something that's It's really a big deal. This was the thermal one. She's smaller. Her name's Dolly. I named her too. But anyway, it acts the same way, got the same information. We were thrilled. I don't want to show you that yet. All right, so, okay, so the, you know, I hope, we'll ask, you know, you can ask questions later about all of this. I mean, I'm kind of rushing because I think we're going to run out of time. So, but I wanted to tell you there were some tragedies that occurred at the cemetery. And these two, I'm not going to talk long about it, but it's in the newspaper. On newspapers.com you can get it. And this one was a slaying in 1907. Little girl, 19 years old, her name was Lily Davis. And there was a boy that liked her a lot, and she didn't like him, but he was what they called a notorious bootlegger. That's what the article says. He kidnapped her, took her to the top of the cemetery in a horse and carriage, because it was 1907, and shot her because she didn't want to date him anymore, or didn't want to date him ever. And so shot her, and by the time she left, she had died. They picked, somebody picked her up and took her off. So she died. And the next one is, this is Glenna Mae Thomas. She's 21 years old, married. She beat her 4-month-old son to death and claimed it was an accident. And when she did that, they were, I guess, investigation and whatnot took a few months. They buried the boy in the cemetery at East Hill. And then after that, I guess she felt like she couldn't live with herself anymore. So she committed suicide. And the way she did that was she laid on by her son's grave at East Hill and had 2 notes in her pocket. She's suicide, and she killed herself. For that reason, she admitted that she had done it. And the newspaper put it in the... I mean, okay. This is in 1949, but the newspaper actually put the picture of her laying there. This is not a fake. And her son's headstone is over there to the side. I don't know what the policeman's doing. I guess he's pointing. But there she was. And so I thought that was very unusual, actually. But at least now you know there's a picture. So those 2 murders, they're buried together now in a double grave in 2B. So that's where the Thomas grave is buried. Okay, so now I'm going to show you some beautiful things about the cemetery, right? Okay. Oh. This is making me mad. Okay, I'm going back. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, we were there a whole year, so we saw all seasons. Beautiful trees, the landscaping, everything is gorgeous. This is a shot of the sign. You've seen this before, going up the hill in that beautiful blue sky. Another good shot. And this one I love. It's the stone, and this is an old place, so the stone is worn, and they had beautiful flowers. This last statement, this is so funny because we didn't collaborate. This is another saying that was the one that Franklin said, and this is supposed to be one that's in the funeral homes a lot. You see this in funeral homes. I'll read it to you. This is Sir William Ewart Gladstone. He was Prime Minister of United Kingdom for 12 years, and he'd like to talk, I guess. So anyway, he said, "Show me the manner in which a nation cares for its dead, and I will measure with mathematical exactness the tender mercies of its people, their respect for the laws of the land, and their loyalty to high ideals." So my version is, the measure of a community is how well it cares for its dead. That's what Franklin says. So, this is something that apparently, this is the way we should treat our dead. And it means that we care about them. And I'll tell you, and I got to tell you, this project for me, I have seen the finest definition of community by the people who assisted us in doing this. And remember I told you about John Luttrell and Brennan, and then Dave Carney and Jonathan, and Travis Brooks. When I had a meltdown about conversion, I called him. He works at ETSU. He's an IT guy. And thank goodness he pull me off the cliff, off the ledge, because I needed a new system. I needed to upgrade my system. That's why I couldn't do it. Anyway, so he helped me an awful lot, but that was also free. And then All Funeral Services is the one that created the website for East Hill Cemetery for free. And Bristol Public Library, let me tell you, every time I do any project at all, any research project, I go to the reference library's desk first. I don't know if you know Jeannie Powers and Kristen Pearson, but they are awesome. And utilize that because it's free to you if you ever want to do that. All right. Now I'm going to, that's the end of my presentation, and I want to introduce Pappy. Come on up, Pappy. And he's going to talk to us about the Sons of Confederate Veterans. He's going to talk to us about the Sons of Confederate Veterans, so you'll understand how they take care of the cemetery.
Okay.
You want to sit there? And we'll have questions. You tell me.
I guess that mic don't work, but I've got a big mouth, so maybe you can hear me anyway. Right off to start with, I want to say, I don't think there's hardly a soul other than some of our SCV members can appreciate what this lady has done for us. I'll give you a quick example. She told me I had 3.5 minutes, so I have to talk fast.
That's all right, go.
I like to yank your chain. Beforehand, somebody called me or maybe Brother Phil back there and say, I've got an ancestor buried up there. I'd like to visit the grave. Well, what's the name? They tell us. And if we're lucky, Gary Rose's book might have their name listed. So, well, it's in section 7, or maybe, unfortunately, 2A.
Yeah.
Said, well, where is that at? All I can tell you is it's in that section. There's about 1,000 graves there. Help yourself. But with her help now, somebody calls, if we can get a name, bingo. We can tell them exactly where that grave is. And it, in my case, helps a whole lot. Just recently, I had a call from the funeral home, said they had a person wanted to be buried up there. They gave me the name, said, well, they don't know exactly where it's at. Dee pulled it up on the thing, told me where it's at. I walked straight to the grave. Before it might be an hour or two, that's just the way, that's how much help that has been. Thank you, Linda. And have you noticed, she did not mention me being up there helping her. Unfortunately, while her and Dee was putting in these hundreds of hours up there, I was having some serious medical problems and wasn't able to help much. I did a little bit at the end, but, and it distressed me a whole lot. One thing I will say that the Sons of Confederate Veterans, which I think you've seen some of my guys that's here, the goal of the SCV, one of the main objectives is to find, mark, and maintain Confederate soldiers' graves. And we have been out in the woods and everywhere else finding graves, trying to get them, if a stone isn't there, try to get them a stone, which we used to be able to get through the government. Now our camp has to finance them. But a couple of years back, the board of directors at East Hill decided that they needed to eliminate the maintenance crew. It was simply an economical move. Our money is getting pretty thin, pretty scarce. They said, well, that's something we can do without. We can't do without the mowing. And incidentally, and I'll throw this at you again in a minute, our mowing cost us $1,500 a time, and we have from 25 to 30 mowings a year to try to, And the crew we've got are doing a marvelous job. But since that's the goal of the SCV, when the maintenance crew was dismissed, we kind of took it on ourselves to say, well, somebody's got to maintain these graves. And since we've got about 240 Confederate soldiers scattered throughout the cemetery plus the field of honor, it just became a natural, and every camp needs a project. And I'll tell you what, these guys right over here are marvelous. And I like to tell people, we do what we can when we can. We're all volunteers. Some of us work, some of them work. That's a bad word, mine. But we do what we can to help maintain the cemetery other than the mowing. And that involves a whole lot. All right, there's the
Yeah,
members.
you all raise your hand James Ambergy, of course, Dee's not here, Pappy, James Little, John Little, David Peters is not there, and then Debbie Coram was a volunteer. They came out one Saturday all day and dug up headstones. That's what they did.
You might add Jack Butterworth, Jim Boer, and
Yes.
Dr. Phil Blevins back there, all are part of us.
Okay.
We have a pretty good crew as far as the SCV goes, but we try to do everything we can. And if you ever get up there and visit our monument that we built several years ago at a total expense of the, but one thing that we do every year and is we have a annual memorial service up there. And this year it will be May the 24th. And I sure would like to have a lot of y'all come up and visit with us. Our primary objective is naturally to honor the Confederate soldier, but they would raise up all those graves themselves if we did not honor every veteran that's up there. And there's 111, isn't that right? Then the other veterans, World War, everything from the Spanish-American War through present days. So we try to honor all of them, and we place about 400 flags. We flag every veteran's grave in the cemetery, and what she's done is a big help for that too. Originally, when we first started doing it, it was a matter of every walk along and read every stone and see whether he was a veteran or not. We don't have to do that now. Thanks to Linda, we know where they're at, and James has done a lot of work on that. And this year, for our memorial service, and it will start at 10 o'clock on the 24th, we have David Chaldez, who is known as the old general who plays the part of Robert E. Lee and does a great job at it. Maybe sometime we might get him down here to talk to the Historical Association.
Yeah.
Dave is a very gifted speaker, and he will be our guest speaker this year. We're lucky to get him because everybody wants him to come and be a part with them. One other thing we do to help finance up at the cemetery is we do the annual ghost walk. This is usually about the second or third week of October, and we have various people portray residents of the cemetery, and they will come out and talk to you. You're guided throughout the cemetery with a guide, and different ones step out and tell the story of their life and what they've done in Bristol or about something about themselves. And one thing about it, if you've been one time, don't think that's the end of it, because every year we try to have different characters that is buried up there in the cemetery appear to you and talk to you. And it is right now the only fundraiser that we have with the cemetery to try to maintain the mowing and everything that goes on. I know I do one of the parts, and always Tom Vaughn does always General
Shelby.
but we change it around. We try to have different ones every year. So if you can come up, it's only $7. It's about a 45-minute walk, and we keep you on the asphalt, something that we have changed over the years, so that nobody don't step in a grave like Linda was talking about. But you got it around through the cemetery. We ask for $7 per person, but we'll take anything you want to give us over and above that. But that is basically our money maker for the year, and that maybe pays for 1 to 2 mowings a year. The rest of it comes out of a fund. And I will say this, that East Hill never had a perpetual care fund because of the way it just evolved over the years. Now I know that's a state law, a good one, thank goodness. If you start a cemetery, you have to set up a perpetual care, which is a good thing. And I will say this, that anybody that, if you can help us out, we take donations, and we are a 501c tax exempt organization. Right now, tax time, that's a good time to plug that. Anything you donate to us is a tax exempt. So if you want to dig deep, we'd appreciate it. One last thing, I want to throw out something here that I think's kind of been left aside. This lady right here in the pretty yellow shirt has been a lot of help up at East Hill. She has cleaned up stones, and when we had some trees down, I think we like to wore plumb into the ground carrying brush off those trees, but thank you, Jackie, for all your help. And anybody that would like to be a ghost, hey, you just talk to me, I'll get you one.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm not talking about the real one, I'm talking about a short-lived one. We're always looking for ghosts because the SCV guys does the leading around the cemetery, he's the guide, so we can always use other folks for ghosts. So if you'd like to be one, let me know. I'll make you one. And like always, like I said on my last presentation, I always got to throw a plug in here. I've watched enough TV to know how they do the advertising. Yeah. I do personal tours of the cemetery for individuals or small groups. And all we ask is some sort of a donation, whatever you can, to help keep and maintain the cemetery. Because we are getting to the point that it's getting slim, folks. Yeah. A lot of our little bit that we do have is invested in the stock market, and it hadn't been very good to us the last few years. So we can use any help we can get. And I guess that's about all I got to say. And thank goodness for this lady and what she has done for us. Woo.
Thank you, Pappy.